Like, I'm not going to read about the FCC rules, am I?
Hmm?
Am I going to read the FCC rules?
You're going to read your slides just like you were in the video.
Okay. Well, I thought it was... Good evening, guys. Welcome to our very first live technician class during quarantine month. So thank you guys for coming and joining me tonight. My name is Leah. I am W3LEO. That is Whiskey 3 Lima Echo Oscar. I am the treasurer of the Middale Amateur Radio Club. And again, I appreciate you guys coming and watching us on this 3-week crash course. Hint, crash course. But bear with me. This is, again, if I mess up, I'm sorry, but, you know, we're human. So, but again, thank you guys for coming in and joining us. So, we're going to get ready to get started. We're going to, this week, again, of course, it's week 1. We'll be going over about ham radio. We're going to learn about call signs. We're going to learn about the control of your radio. Mind the rules. Test frequencies, and your first radio. So as you can see in the video about ham radio, we have a collage there of pictures. A few are from field day, and then we have one in the corner of us volunteering at the Christmas lights here in Midwest City at the park. Now, about ham radio. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, we all know about them, makes and enforces all amateur radio rules in the United States, which is 97.1. The amateur rules and regulations very specifically state the basis and purpose of amateur radio. One of the important principles, is that amateur radio never competes with commercial radio interest. Now, in the 97.1 basis and purpose, the rules and regulations in this part are designed to provide an amateur radio service having a fundamental purpose as expressed in the following principles. recognition and enhancement of the value of the amateur service to the public as a voluntary, non-commercial communication service, particularly with respect to providing emergency communications. Also, continuation and extension of the amateur's proven ability to contribute to the advancement of the radio art. Encouragement and improvement of the amateur service through rules which provide for advancing skills in both the communication and technical phases of the art. Expansion of the existing reservoir within the amateur radio service of trained operators, technicians, and electronics experts. And continuation and extension of the amateur's unique ability to enhance international goodwill. So as of today, the FCC issues only 3 ham licenses. Technician, which that is what you are going for. The next is general and amateur exam. Amateur extra. See, I told you. Incidentally, many new technicians are unaware of the value of the old novice privileges that they inherited from the old system. These old novice privileges allows worldwide HF communications on 4 valuable shortwave bands. Now about amateur radio. The amateur rules and regulations very specifically state the basis and purpose of amateur radio, Part 97.1 of the FCC rules, and addresses the distinctions between amateur and commercial radio. As usual and practical, all the above may seem only one of the functions listed in the long-standing purposes of amateur radio, which is advancing skills in the technical and communication phases of the radio art. Now before we move on, if you notice on the bottom of the page, bottom of the thing, it has the T1801, page 33. Now the page is out of the Gordon West technician book. This one right here. If you don't have it, that's okay too. Just you can look up that question. But the question is what is on the exam, one of the 2 exams that we broke down to create these slides. So those, keep an eye on those. Those are the ones that you need to study the most. Okay? So again, this is the book that we're going through. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I have to go into the chat. My OM is helping me with this, so he will be able to help answer your questions for me. Thank you. Okay, next. Alright, you will not need to wait very long on sorry. You will not need to wait for very long to begin operating with your first amateur radio license. As soon as you see your FCC license grant on the internet, or make a phone call to someone who can read your new call sign from the FCC database, you are on the air. Now, you do have a grace period to renew your license once it expires. You are not allowed to operate during the grace period. You do get to keep your privileges for 2 years, but once you don't renew, you lose it, including your call sign. So keep that in mind for future. Call signs. As you see, I have a group of call signs there. And then this is our call sign map, or the WAS map, Work All States map. The ARRL provides these, and it shows our district, all they're broken up. We are District 5, so when you receive your call sign, you will have a number 5 in your call sign. Real quick, mine is a 3 because mine is a vanity call, and we can talk about those later on. But I did have a 5 assigned to me. It requires at least 4 persons to make up a club, and the club must have a name. Ours is Middale ARC, Amateur Radio Club. A document of organization, a list of management with president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and the primary purpose is devoted to amateur radio service activities to apply for an FCC club station and call sign. Ours is Whiskey 5 Mike Whiskey Charlie, or W5NWC. Call signs are commonly on ham bands to identify specific aspects of your operation. If you are working an event as an amateur radio operator, you may hear race control be mentioned. This is to identify that station as what they are doing. They must still identify with their FCC assigned call sign every 10 minutes. Unidentified transmissions have always been a big no-no of amateur radio. However, recent rules allow for one exception: transmissions to operate radio-controlled cars, boats, or aircraft. An alternate means of identifying the transmitter call sign is required, such as physically attaching a call sign label to the remote-controlled transmitter. Now, today is an exciting adventure on the 10-meter bands, which again we'll learn more about those later on. As a technician class operator, your new privileges include voice emissions from 28.300 to 28.500 megahertz. When the skip goes long, it is possible to hook up with a station in a foreign country. You are permitted to speak their language as a courtesy to the operator. However, every 10 minutes, you still must give your call sign in English. The United States, like most other countries, is a member of the International Telecommunications Union, the ITU. The ITU is a United Nations agency that helps establish uniform and agreed-upon regulations and frequency rules for radio services as member nations, including those for the amateur radio services of member nations. Our own FCC has the big job of ensuring that our radio services are in compliance. Now, over 75 countries hold reciprocal operating agreements with the U.S. The permit to operate in different countries usually is obtained ahead of time, and some European countries don't require extra class operators to obtain any special paperwork other than having copies of their extra class U.S. license and reciprocal agreement paperwork. Meaning, if you were to visit another country, you need to apply ahead of time. You may have to be required to have another call sign for that country to be able to operate from that country. That's what that is meaning on that end. Now, your new technician license gives you many opportunities to talk around the world. While it's acceptable, if we kind of get over in there again, apologize, but again, you're allowed to speak in their language, but in every 10 minutes you are to say your call sign in English. And again, there are 2 countries that the ITU administration prohibits you from exchanging communications: the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and Eritrea. That was one I ran into a bit earlier. I didn't know what to say. But real quick, as an amateur radio operator, your call sign kind of becomes your identity, because when they hear your voice and your call sign, anytime you go to a ham convention or any kind of special event, when you give a call sign, hey, I know I talked to you on the radio, or this is welcome to amateur radio, as that is your new identity. Alright, we're going to go to control. Okay, before we do that, does anyone have any questions about call signs or anything? You can type it in the chat. Give it a couple seconds. Does anybody have any questions? Alright, well, if you come across with one that while we're going through, that's fine. I have someone else helping me, so we will be able to take care of those questions for you. Alright, again, control. You think I'm a control freak? I can be. When a ham radio station goes on the air and begins transmitting, there must always be a control operator who is responsible for the transmissions. The control operator might be present at the controls, may control their station remotely, or have equipment tied to the transmitter to provide automatic control. But all transmitting stations must have a control operator responsible for the station when it transmits over the airwaves. It also goes in fact that if you're with a control operator who is an extra class operator, if they are on the bands, you can be right there with them on listening to the extra bands. The control operator is the station licensee or another licensed ham designed by the station licensee to be the control operator. It is up to the station licensee to either control his own station or select an alternative control operator who's appropriately licensed. If you designate your friend as the control operator of your station, his or her privileges with the extra class ticket will allow operation well above your normal technician class band limits. You see, I jumped ahead. Now, who may be the control operator of a station communicating through an amateur satellite or space station? Any amateur can talk over the satellites. So when you pass your new technician class exam, you will be allowed to transmit on satellite uplink frequencies that are within your technician class privileges. You'll instantly join the mainstream of satellite activity. Now the control operator, here we go. Okay, the control, I know some of this repeats a little bit, but there are some little differences about them. The control operator is a station licensee or another licensed ham designated by the station licensee to be the control operator. It is up to the station licensee to either control his own station or select an alternative control operator who is appropriately licensed. Alright, about the only time you will see a big rack of ham radio equipment with no actual operator on duty is the automatically controlled station. This could be a repeater up on a mountaintop or a radio link atop a high-rise. The FCC rules requires that all the details indicating who is in charge be posted on the equipment in case of a malfunction during automatic control. And that is a question on one of the exams. Alright, the control point is the spot where you have to complete control of the equipment, where you can turn the station off and on and off. You can change any settings on there. Every ham radio station is required to have a control point. Is there any questions for this section of the questions that we are going over? Is there any questions?
Oh, you got Kirk who said you're doing great. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate that.
You got Michael Besso. I can't pronounce the name, I'm sorry. He said audio and video is working well.
Good enough.
And Russell Romney, KC5UNE.
Hi, Russell from Kansas.
Alright.
You know, probably Mitch Bledsoe. He was in our group. Like, and my TV went off. Oop. It's okay. Bear with me a second. For some reason, everything wants to just shut off and test us. Our next one will be the FCC rules. Pushing on more of it. Once it pops up. Here we go. Title 47, Part 97. So we follow under the Part 97 rules, which, right here. Ham radio rules are found in Part 97. This falls under Title 47, which is telecommunications. Part 80 is marine radio. Part 87 is aviation radio. Part 90 is land mobile radio. Part 95 is personal radio, CBFRS, family radio service, and GMRS, which is general mobile radio service. Part 97, amateur radio, that's us. And Part 101, fixed microwave service. You will hear most everything and anything over the airwave, but one thing absolutely not allowed on any ham radio frequency, including repeater, is indecent and obscene language, which, when we were first attending to pre-record this, my husband censored me. He thought that would be funny. Radio amateurs share radio spectrum with countless other radio amateurs and other duly licensed radio services. Occasionally, interference is unavoidable from time to time, but intentional interfering with other amateur radio communications is never acceptable. That would be one of the fastest ways to lose your license and get a big fine. Always run the minimum amount of power necessary to make contact with another station. You can make contact with someone in another country on 5 watts, and when everything is just right. So that's why it's important to just, even though we're allowed to go up to 100 watts, if you don't need to do that. 1500 watts. My bad. We're allowed up to 1500 watts, but we don't need to put that much out. You might cause interference with someone else. You may not operate your station like an AM, FM, or shortwave broadcast station, but you cannot, or you may not, let me restart that, apologize. You may not operate your station like an AM, FM, or shortwave broadcast station. You cannot transmit directly to the public.
You do that one question.
Okay. I have one question. What's the question?
All right. The question is, for maybe some basics for us newbies, how many classes once a week and getting to the test? How many classes are you going to be having?
This one will be actually total 3 classes. The next one will be next Monday, and then we'll have one we'll have one the 3rd Monday of the month, and then we have intention of testing by the end of the month. I'm going to work on working that details out. So hint, this is the crash course. Obviously you're not learning everything, so it doesn't hurt. One thing about amateur radio, it is more of a hands-on learning, but obviously if you have the books, read them. But this is to help you get past the exam so you can get your technician sooner. But there are plenty of hams out there, even in our own club. They'd be more than happy to help you get the station set up, make sure make sure everything is where you need to be able to get on the air. And you will get, once you pass your exam, you guys will, you will be getting a band plan. You will have a band plan to show you where you can and cannot go. I hope that helps answer your question.
And that was the only question so far. So,
all right.
If anybody else has a question, ask it in the chat and we'll answer it.
All right. Normally, we are not permitted to assist in news gathering for our commercial television stations. However, in an emergency where regular commercial radio and TV broadcast station transmitters have been blown over, ham operators, which would be like tornado in Oklahoma, ham operators are permitted to assist in emergency news gathering, assuming there is absolutely no other radio systems available and assuming that their reports will assist the general public in protecting their lives and property. As my OEM works in the broadcast industry, if he has anything that he would like to attach to that, or if he thinks that...
I do? Oh, wow. You put me on the spot there. What do you want me to say?
Well, you work in that part of the work. He works at KFOR, which is our local NBC affiliate, and actually amateur radio helped him get his job there. So future people,
yeah, I'll talk about that later on, maybe. But yes, amateur radio helped me get my job.
But anyways, but like we were saying, we are not reporters. And we have to still be careful, even if the reporter comes up and asks us what we're doing and everything. But again, you are not required to do any of that stuff if you don't feel comfortable with doing that. But basically, if we were in a, like you said, tornado situation, things are disarray, and we were in an area, an opportunity to let someone know, yeah, I was over here, blah, 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 this happened, that's fine. You're still representing, the community and apologize, and the hobby. So, and that point parts of the emergency settings. Okay, before I get too gone. Now, this is important too. The FCC Licensing Bureau requires an up-to-date mailing address. A P.O. box is fine, or any postal address where you can always receive mail via USPS official correspondence from the FCC. If correspondence from the FCC is ever refused, so if you move and you don't update that information and then have returned or as undeliverable, your license could be revoked or suspended. That would be an awful way to lose your license just because we forgot to update our address. So keep that on the back of the mind if anyone's moving anytime soon. Now, this one is a good one. Music is generally not allowed on ham bands. So if you're finding a jam on KOMA, those who are local here, cannot broadcast that over your amateur radio in your vehicle. That's a big no-no. Now, however, a little known rule could permit you to blow your trumpet for the reveal When sending up an authorized signal to the International Space Station. Sorry. So, you do have one exception, and it has to do with the International Space Station. The music is considered incidental to an authorized retransmission of manned spacecraft communications. And do you play the trumpet? Because I don't. Alright, is there any questions for the FCC rules part of the exam
No questions right now. Make sure to reiterate to ask questions in the chat.
Yeah, don't forget, you could add questions in the chat, and then we'll answer them right here between myself and my OM. He knows a little bit more than I do on some of this stuff. So, alright, next is the fun one, tech frequencies.
Leah, you're an extra class radio amateur.
Yeah.
You know as much as I do about amateur radio.
Yeah, no, that's not true. I still need his help. Alright. The term RF refers to radio frequency. If a unit transmits, it puts out a radio frequency. A wireless hotspot has a radio frequency. Your cell phone has a radio frequency output. Your new technician class transceiver has a radio frequency output. As soon as you push the transmit button, remember, I don't have my handheld on me. Oh, haha! This one right here. Oops. I gotta see where the camera's at. Okay, when you push here. But anyways, alright. The velocity of our radio wave is the same as the speed of light. That's why it's like that. So we learn a lot of electronics and science and math, and I feel like we're in school again. The basic unit of frequency is the hertz. It's abbreviated with a capital H and a lower Z. High frequency is called HF, what we just learned. It extends from 3 to 30 megahertz. Very high frequency, called VHF, extends to 30 to 300 megahertz. And ultra high frequency, called UHF. You might hear us talk about VHF, UHF. That explains why. It extends from 300 to 3,000 megahertz.
Real quick.
Now, let him explain just a hair bit more on that. Cause
well, that's not really an explanation.
Okay.
But when hams do it, it megahertz.
Okay. But if you have a question on that particular thing, ask him. Alright. The velocity of radio waves through space is 300 million meters per second, or 300 million meters per second. It's written out and it's spelled out. And that's a question. When figuring out the frequency readout, you will move the decimal point 3 places to the right to convert megahertz to kilohertz. So 3.525 megahertz is 3,525 kilohertz. Most HF radios display frequency in kilohertz. Again, the basic unit of frequency is the hertz, which is abbreviated with the capital H and little z, and that is a question on the exam, on one of the exams. The higher we go in frequency, the shorter the distance between each wave. The lower we go in frequency, the longer the distance between each wave. Every amateur radio band is sliced up into specific operating band plans. Band plans are voluntary guidelines that hams have established to designate frequencies for specific operation. Weak signal work, DXing. DXing is out of country. Slow scan, amateur radio television, propagation beacons, and specific areas for working satellites and the International Space Station. There's a lot there. One thing you will learn is that there is a lot in this hobby. There's more than just talking on your handheld to your friend across the way. Looks like Donald's gonna pull up. Well, I had a band. Our band plan's on the wall, but okay, he's gonna pull up a copy of the ARRL band plan. Again, it shows you the different bands that we use, that we can be on, and shows you what area you are allowed to be in. Now, once you get your technician license, I do strongly recommend to at least upgrade to general. If extra class is not quite your forte, it is a much bigger test, a little harder, more electronics, more math, more it took me a year to get mine because that's not my forte, so I was so glad to get that. But general and technician are close enough, but general gives you a lot more opportunities to do more HF, to where you can get those long distance other country contacts, to where you can have that fun of that.
Here's big. So, like right here on the 2 meter band plan, you can see you have like EME work, that's Earth, Moon, Earth, for CW, which stands for Morse code. The weak signal, like what Leah just said earlier, this is in the range of 144.05 megahertz to 144.10 megahertz. You got the national calling frequency, that's 144.200 megahertz. And like general sideband operations is at 144.200 to 144.275. So again, this is a voluntary band plan that can be that is used, and it does help with coordination of other services and other things that we do.
Alright, and there's the other visual. This is the one you will be getting a copy of. And then what we were showing before, a few ways back on call signs, with the map of the worked all states, that's on the back of that one. So it's the same paper, same one. But like I said, you'll get one once you pass your exam, which you will. And real quick, for those who may not realize, the question is, it's a 35 question exam, multi-choice, like A, B, or C, and then you just fill it out, and you can get no more than 9 wrong to pass. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, on your first radio, this is technically my second radio. My first radio eventually died because I had it for a while, but I have had this radio 7 years, I believe now. I'll be a ham 9 years this month in a few days. I forget what date.
You'll have to redo it in another year.
But yeah, I'll be 9 years this month. But this one is an ICOM T70A. I'm not trying to plug, but this is the one that I use, and I use this one for my local repeater. This is not HF. This is just a dual band handheld that I can use here on my local repeaters that I use for our nets, our siren net, and communication local. So this is your 2 meter 70 centimeter antenna radios.
I have a question.
Okay. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
So the question is, are you referring to the sideband calling frequency for the 2 meters, or the phone calling frequency for the 2 meters? I was referring to the single sideband calling frequency for 2 meters. However, single sideband is also known as phone. Single sideband voice, actually. But you can do CW. There's a CW calling frequency. There's digital calling frequencies. There's calling frequencies for everything is divided up in that band plan. So I could drill down more into it later.
Yeah, basically, like on the band plan, with the one that Dawn had just a few minutes ago. Oh, sorry. That had a few minutes ago. It is broken up by phone, data, more. It's so you don't accidentally go onto one on your phone on your like your, say you have a radio at home, your base station as we call it, and you want to get on 20 meters. There is a part where you cannot operate on because it's for phone only. It's not for voice.
Well, phone is voice.
Well, okay. How I was trying to explain it, I didn't explain it right. I apologize. Like if you're trying to do more digital like off your computer. There you go. That's what I was trying to get at. Okay, you went too fast. Go back. I think there was another one. No. I didn't read the last one. Sorry, guys. Okay, your first radio, which this is the one I was explaining about. This is on your handheld radio. It comes with the rubber duck antenna. This is not the original antenna that came with it. They're usually about yay tall. The disadvantage to the antenna gets minimal coverage, and it's good in simplex, which simplex, we'll learn more about that in a little bit later. It is not as effective as a full-size antenna. This is a full-size antenna, or pretty close to it. The longer the antenna, the more coverage you get. W3LEO has hooked up my antenna, my handheld, to a mag mount. So if you don't have the opportunities inside my vehicle, I have my other vehicle.
On the box.
Oh, give me just a second. Excuse the dust. But this is a mag mount. As you can see.
Yeah. Hold it. Oh.
Uh-oh. Sorry. Sorry, Chip. See right here, it's got the magnet that you can stick on the top of the car, or if you are on the hood of your truck, hood of the trunk of your car. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where am I supposed to be at.
Push it back further.
There I am. Okay. But anyways, here is the base of the antenna, and then you take this part here. This hooks up to you'll have to have a connector that will connect to this that will actually hook up to your radio. But this way will give you a lot more range versus your little antenna. But ever since I swapped antennas to the one that I have now, I've been able to get a lot much farther range. But that is a good alternative to if you're not able to get a mobile rig set up right away. Then that way you have longer range. So let's get that out of the way. Alright, hey. Next. Any questions on the handheld? Which I know that there are so many radios out there and trying to decide which one to get.
Russell said, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what the correct frequencies you were talking about was. The national calling FM frequency, is 146.52. Yes.
Right. Thank you for that,
Yeah,
Russell.
you show it off better.
Okay.
And hold it against the wall.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Can you see a little bit better now?
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay. Okay. Here's what it looks like.
Down. Okay, right there.
And then again, here's the connector, which a lot of when the ham shows actually happen, you can get the connectors there for your we are still set for ham holiday in July, so still keep an eye on that, because then you just give you plenty of opportunities to buy radios and equipment and gear and fun stuff. And sorry for the plug. Alright, I'm going to set this down. Okay. Now, what about interference? Courtesy should prevail on the amateur radio bands. Sorry, you're hitting the plug. There we go. Okay. Courtesy should prevail on the amateur radio bands. Our reputation of being self-policing depends on our long-standing cooperative behavior. So, we need to behave. Which, majority of the time we do. Once in a while we'll get someone who doesn't, but that's just how it is. Now, mobile stations running either a handheld or 50-watt mobile to an outside antenna to get to the end of their line-of-sight range to a repeater, the signal will begin to flutter rapidly. This is caused by roadway signs and guardrails adding to and subtracting from the ultimate signal strength. The radio business, we call it picket fencing. I always remembered that question for some reason. I guess certain ones just stick out to me. But,
that was the end of this week that you have.
Dang. Sorry if I went too fast. But if you have any... well, actually, can you go ahead and pull up the ones that we talked about for the testing session, just to give them a quick heads up?
Which one? Tell me when.
I think it might have been for next week, honestly, but I do remember putting that in there.
Try to find it.
we'll learn some fun stuff next week, and we'll be a little bit better. I want to say prepared, but okay, almost there. Sorry, thought we had already. I thought I put it up farther.
Well, what did you want to say?
Okay, well, for the testing session, when obviously again, technician is a 35 question multi-choice test. You will need to go to the fcculs.org website to fill out. You go in there to get an FRN number. I forgot what the abbreviation again is for FRN. Right there, the FC. Okay, homework. But even though it's a little past that point, if you don't want to use your social security number on the paperwork, you can complete get an FRN number, which you will be assigned that once you get your license, but you can apply for it ahead of time. So you can go to fcc. Is that for an app or?
Yeah, no, that's the webpage.
Oh, okay. So apps.fcc.gov/CORES web/public-home-do. But basically you're going to the FCC ULS. That's what it looks like right there. And you will register for an FRN number. And then you'll be able to use that in place of social security number on one of the paper, because we have multiple paperwork that you will fill out. But anyways, what I'm asking, since we're doing all this social distancing stuff, I ask you to provide your own pencils, your own calculator if you think you might need it, any scrap paper if you need to make notes or anything like that. And also, there is a $15 charge. We still kind of do it what we consider the old style, because there's so many other different ways of doing testing now. But all the fees go to the ARL, which is the Amateur Radio Relay League, which they provide the band plans, they provide equipment. They provide a lot of services for us. So they are a great organization to be part of. But anyways, that's why there's that. And all those that are wanting to take the test after the third week, I'll have you, if you communicate through me through Facebook, you can message me through there, or you can email me at leah because a lot of them had already had my other email address, so this will be my personal email address. It's leah.ohse@gmail.com to officially RSVP. Okay, then that way we can plan to do our best on the social distancing part, but we will still be able to take a physical exam. All right. But again, the FRN number is probably one of the most important ones that we will want you to get taken care of first. Is there any questions? Actually, if you can go to the slide for week 2, so I give them a heads. When you get done with what you're doing, he's multitasking. Like we could go over
multitasking.
We can go over what we'll be going over in week 2. And you see, I still got some work to do.
You keep talking.
But yeah.
And usually you never quit talking.
Oh hush. Computer goes to outer space. Repeaters. Alright. Oh, there it is right there. Go up. Go up. Up again. One more time. Down. You went too fast.
That one?
Go up. Hold on. Go back. Go up. Right there. There's my paper. There was my thing I was trying to say. Okay, go there so I can just say it again.
Okay.
Good. One more time. Go up one more. Okay. No, you went too fast.
There you go.
One more time. Right there. Okay, once you pass your technician, you can try for your general at no extra charge. So if you wish to like you want at least to see what it looks like. But if you wish to try for your upgrade, please let myself or another volunteer examiner know ahead of time, which it would be me. I mean, there's 3 of us, but I will be the one coordinating all this. So, okay, now go back. I think I heard you jump too fast. My bad. Okay. Again, like I said, we are planning to host a social distancing BE session at the end of the month. Of course, if you can go ahead and email, like I know I put on there a comment with your email address, but email me so then that way I can have a list. And again, here is where I talked about the FRN number, which you can go to the fcculs.org website, which he has showed you a picture of.
Mitchell just knocked out the FRN.
All right. Provide your own, again, since pencils, calculators, anything items that you might need. And then, of course, again, for the fee is $15, and the funds go to the ARL for supplies, but also help support the organization. We can talk more about them later on and the importance that they play for us in this amateur radio community. Next, there is one more. Okay. And again, like I said, if you want to go for your general, you can do it at no extra charge at the same time that you take the technician, okay? And then I think that's it next. Okay, now go to week 2, just so we give a preview of the... Okay, so week 2, you're going to learn about going solo, which will be your first amateur radio transmission. We're going to learn a little more about repeaters, which my OEM will help me a little more on that stuff. The emergency settings, or what you can or cannot do in emergency settings via radio. Weak signal propagation, which that is the fun thing about how, again, where you can, if the environment is just right, where you get that once opportunity to get someone in another country that you normally wouldn't be able to get. That's the fun. Those are the fun ones. Talk to outer space, where you can use a specific antenna. And you can talk to the International Space Station, or you can bounce the signals off satellites. Dawn and I have done that before too, and made contact with a guy in Missouri, bouncing off the satellite as it was passing over us. And then last, your computer goes ham digital, which will have some fun stuff to go a little more on the digital side of amateur radio, which there's a lot of digital in amateur radio.
We do have a question here.
Okay.
I would like to upgrade! Exclamation point.
Yay!
So, would you recommend getting the Gordon West class, general class book as well?
Yeah, and I like the format of the way that Gordon West does his books. That's kind of why I do the class the way that I do. ARL has a great book. It's chock full of information, and that, to me, that's more on your end. But if you are wanting to get through the exam, then yes. And then what I recommend doing, which works good for me, was taking the questions and highlighting the answer. So then that way you're only focusing on that answer. Now for me, I had to write the question down at least once with the answer and read it that way, and that's how I process it. But I do strongly recommend highlighting the answer on that on the questions that you're wanting to study. Now, of course, for the technician, you're only studying a small amount of. There's technically 70 questions that we're actually going over that you will actually have an opportunity of having in one of the 2 exams, even though we do have more than 70 questions in the class itself, because we're providing you other information beyond what's in the test. Because you need to know. It's the need to know stuff. So that's why there's a little bit more. Because in week 3 we have one chapter, one area that's pretty good. It's got a lot in it. So, anyways, but yeah, that's how we're doing it. Any last questions? I apologize if I rushed right through it. I wasn't trying to, but sometimes it's hard. Well, next week we'll have a little more opportunity on. We'll go more in depth when.
Yeah, we're going to go more in depth next week. We'll be covering a lot more technical information next week. So, and I will be helping out with that as well. So, other than that, I don't see any more questions. And so, if there is a last question that pops up, we'll be sure to answer it. We're going to go ahead and end this now. And we'll be back next week at 7 o'clock on Monday.
Thank you again. Thank you for taking your time, giving us your time in this during the quarantine. Yeah, I'm being patient and flexibility with all of this. So again, and I'll try to do better on not blending in with the wall as much. I forgot how blue my hair was. But anyways, all right. Thank you guys again. And as we say in the amateur radio community, 73.